Okay, thank you for joining. Today's Exploratory online seminar number 74 is Introduction to Exploratory version 6.11. We have released version 6.11. I think it's almost like 2 weeks ago. And then last week we released the official first patch for the v6.11, which is basically the 6.11.1. So with that, I think we've got a pretty stable version of the version 6.11. So I think this is a good timing to introduce the new features we have put it in this release. Okay, so let's get started. So let me introduce myself. My name is Kan Nishida, CEO at Exploratory. We started Exploratory almost 6 years ago to democratize data science. Main thing we are doing is to build this Exploratory desktop and also the server as a sort of like data science platform where people can work and on their data and understand the pattern, the trend, and then find useful information. And our vision is to in the world that we want to create is like everybody can make data-informed decisions. This shouldn't be like only for like certain type of people or, let's say like statisticians or something like that. I think in this data world we live, we should be able to do this. Like anybody should be able to do this. So in order to make this happen, we think our mission is to democratize data science so that like anybody can access to these amazing methods and the technology, and then they can understand their own data. When we say data science, we think it's about, we usually use this data science workflow. Most of the time, like you start with business questions, and then you access the data to find the answers. But most of the time, the data is not the way that you can visualize or analyze. So you have to do something called data wrangling to transform or clean up that data. And then like you want to use the charts to visualize the data so that you can understand or see some patterns and the trends with your eyes. But most of the time, not most of the time, but oftentimes, your eyes can see only so much. So you want to use analytics to find the patterns and trends that hidden in the data. Maybe your eyes cannot see or it might be deceived. So those are the type of information that you want to extract from the data. And then finally, like if you're going back and forth after, all combination, all sequence, and then finally you can extract some information from the data, then you want to communicate with other folks. So the communication at the right-hand side, that is also a very important piece of the data science workflow. So we build the Exploratory to make these 5 things: the data access, data wrangling, visualization, analytics, and communication as easy and simple as possible through the software UI tool with this modern simple UI. So that's the Exploratory. Okay, enough for the introduction. Let's get into today's seminar content, which is Introduction to Exploratory version 6.11. So first, I get this question a lot with all over the world. So how can we create our sort of like data culture in our organizations? And then, many people are like so excited about data science and sometimes the machine learning or AI and so on. But then how can we create a data culture? Then, in order to answer this question, the people get kind of stuck because it turned out that analytics or even like machine learning types of things, this is just a small fraction of the whole, what you can do with the data. And then in organization, like when you want to create a data culture, we think sort of like we have 2 phases. Number one is the organization data driven or not? If otherwise, there is no point for like, trying to do like analytics in a way, because there might be some cases, but most of the time, like if you're talking about creating a data cultures, if your organization is not data driven yet, then there's no next step, which we think is a data informed is the way that sort of like ideal world we want to go ahead to. So what data driven we think is that it's by basically defining the business metrics, then we can establish what is good, what is bad, right? Like we need a criteria. And then like by monitoring those business metrics, then we can accept the real world as is, not the world that we wish for. Therefore, like we can take actions if it's bad or it's good based on that, right? So, but then the question, then after you establish that type of data-driven world, then the question is that really bad or good? Even though it looks good, but is that really meaning good or really bad? Or that's sometimes like a hard question to ask once you start getting into this. And then the next thing is like, of course, you want to know is like why this is good, why this is bad, what is really happening behind. And those are the things that we want to understand from the data. Then that's where the data informed world comes in. To do this, though, to answer those types of questions, then you need to build hypothesis, and then test that hypothesis. So it's coming into the area of like statistics world, and then like you want to understand the correlation and also causation. Those are the two different things. So you want to investigate again by using the statistics and data. And also, like you need to have the probabilistic thinking with the statistical inference. So all that's, statistical side of the things, will be required for the data informed. But again, instead of like jumping into these types of things, let's establish our organization is data-driven or not. And then so most of the time, like I think this is like a first step to create data culture. And we think that key ingredients here is something like a dashboard. It doesn't have to be dashboard. It can be just a report. It can be like a spreadsheet. Anything can be fine. But most of the time, like I think the dashboard is a great solution for monitoring the business metrics. So with this release version 6.11, we really kind of improve. I mean, like not just this release, over the last few releases, we kept improving this area of the dashboard. And with this release too, like we did a couple things. Number one, we updated some UI. We introduced the new Markdown editor for the text input in the dashboard. And then we support drag and drop for images and show detail. So let's get into the demo. I'm gonna just get it into this one. Here, go. Okay, so this is exploratory. We are looking at. Then here is a dashboard I created it. By the way, like I have the data frame here, and I have created a series of the chart. And then like I want to basically create a dashboard to put those charts in. Okay. And then so at the top, I have the metrics or KPI area. And then like I have a couple of charts. And then like as you see here, some of the icons. So these are the things that like in the last release, previous release 6.10, when we updated the dashboard in a major way, we removed these type of icons, but we brought them back so that you can easily find to add a chart or text area, or if you want to do something else, for example, adding a column to the left or right, or delete a column this type of layout, it's much easier access that you have. So like you don't have to, used to be like you have to go up here under the add button. Then you can still do those things, but now like every section has this, so like it's easier to access to those menu. So that's number one. Number two is, as you see here is a text input area. So then like you can basically like by clicking on this add text, you can create this area and you start typing maybe like some of the comments or annotation kind of stuff. In order to edit, you click on this button and you get this edit UI. Here, now that we have this editor, this is, you might be familiar with this if you have created a note. So basically, we brought that Markdown editor from the note to here as well. So what is so good about this is like this area, like it supports Markdown. This was before too, but if you're not familiar with Markdown, like you are not sure like how to format this. So for example, this one, this row, I want to make this as a kind of a header format, meaning like bold and bigger text. In that case, there is this H button, which is header. If you click one, it adds basically pound sign and a space, and that's actually making the whole row to be header one. What happens like if you want to do like a header two, or you can click again to make it 2 pound sign, and this makes it the header two. And the same thing, if you, this time, I'm going to just type the pound sign. That makes it header 3 and so on. So I can remove like 2 pounds and leave just 1 pound to make it header 1. And then that looks okay. And then now next thing I want to do is here, like I created a list of the countries. And then rather than like just listing up, like I want to actually do bullet points. So in order to do, like I can select all of this and then click on this bullet point icon. And then now what I actually do is just simply add in those like a pound sign, no, sorry, pound sign, asterisk, and then a space. And that makes that particular row to be the bullet point. Okay, and that looks good. I can click on this apply button, and then this one is also the preview area. So it looks okay. And one thing I'm missing here is like I want to add an image. So to do, I already have some image prepared. So like here, this one is actually really cool. Like you can actually Control C or Command C to copy this image, and then you can actually come back into the editor and then set the place where you want to insert the image, and then you can just type type Command Command V or Control V, or simply you can just drag and drop, like bring this image, bring this image and then drop it. And then that actually spits out like some of the file paths. What happened is that the image was copied under the exported repository where this project and dashboard, all the stuff is saved. And then basically showing that a path to that particular file. What that means is if I click on apply, then this preview area now has the image along with other text. And then it looks okay. I'm going to just close it. And then this particular part is now created. Let's see like how this dashboard will look like by clicking on Run button. And then now like I have this dashboard produced with some edit that I have just did. So like I have the image and text nicely format, and then other chart area. Okay, so that's the second part of the update on dashboard, which is to add the nice markdown editor for the text input. The third is this part. This is actually my personal favorite. Sometimes when you have the pivot table or a chart in a dashboard, and you want to see like what are those particular data. So let's say, hey, it looks like I have this like Thailand, and then this is like when it says true, this is like a returned order. So like what's going on with this returned order? I have a 7.14% in a Thailand or something. Then I can actually click on it, and that will immediately show something called show detail. So it's actually creating the data behind the chart and then filtering on to match with Thailand, and then the return is true. Then like once I get this, then like I can actually go to the export, and then maybe export to the CSV or spreadsheet and send it to somebody else. Right. So that's something called show detail. This was supported at the chart level before, meaning if you go to let's say where's the chart? For example, here I have the chart. Then like you could click on this is a chart actually I was using. So if I go here, then you can click on this part, and then there's a show detail button. Then you can show that detailed data behind the scene, but now you can actually do it in the dashboard. Okay, and not only the chart, you can actually do with the pivot table too. So let's say like, hey, what is this furniture, chairs, and then like expenses, 3,000 something. What are the data behind this particular cell? And then again, you can click on it and then show the view detail data. So that's the third enhancement for the dashboard. And finally, the fourth part, this is not last but least, is that there's the parameters. So like if you click on the parameter, and the parameter brings an interactive experience, right? So like you can use parameter as part of the SQL query, as part of the calculation, or as part of the filter. And then you can update that data in the dashboard or note, or some data on the chart, or whatever, to bring more like interactive experience. Okay, so here, as you have seen and noticed, we added this like a list layout for multi-select. So in this case, basically what we are looking at here is a corporate and a home office segment data. And then before it was a drop down. Now you have the list. So here too, like here's a region, like we're looking at these particular regions of the data. But this one too, right now, the drop down, and then, but also even the drop down, like we updated this format. So it's much easier to select because you can see like what are selected value immediately. And also like you can sort of like search. So let's say, hey, like I want to see America, South America, Central America, or something like that. I can quickly select those things. But also, another thing is, what if like I want to see this one as a list instead of a drop down, right? So in that case, you can actually go to the parameter page. In this, for example, here is a gear icon next to the region. I click on it, and then this is a definition of this parameter. And what we have added is this: when the input type, the parameters input type is a list of value multi-select, then there is something called style. So you can switch between drop down or list. So this time I'm going to select the list and then click save button. And what happened is you see here, like a region, this particular area has converted to this list format. So like you can see like, hey, what are the values selected? What are the values that are remaining? And type of things. And then if you select, oh, you know what, like I want to add the Canada too, and then click run button, and then now like I can interact with the dashboard, whatever the charts have anything to do with that parameter, then get automatically updated. Okay, so that's the fourth enhancement or improvement around the dashboard. Okay, so let's go back to the slide. We cover the parameter. Okay. So next topic is, so we, before going to the next topic, so we basically, this version, like we want to continue to help you creating a dashboard more effectively, right? So time spent on creating dashboard, let's imagine this is like 100% of the time you spend on creating dashboard. But in reality, the creating dashboard itself is not that much of the time, because let's say like you already have a bunch of charts. All you need to do is like, adding those charts and then layout things, and then pretty much that's all it takes, right? But what happens inside the dashboard is those charts. You have to create those charts first. So time spent on creating chart is actually the big proportion of creating that dashboard. So we continue to make it easy for creating chart. So these are the area, like in this release, we improved. We improved minor things that are not listed here too, but these are the main things we did. So let's go with one by one. So horizontal support for the box plot as well as the violin plot. So this is supported, this horizontal layout was supported for the bar chart, error bar, and so on. But now we brought that layout to box plot and the violin plot. And the next one is show detailed support for the pivot and the summarize table. We have already seen it in the dashboard demo, but this one is being added to the pivot table and the summarize table at the chart level as well. And also we brought this show detail experience to the map. So let's say that you have a world map and then you have the country, let's say like United States or France or something like that. You can click on it and see related data or underlying data. Next one is the sort for color. I think this is actually one of my favorite in this 6.11 release. It's very useful. Let's see like why that's so important. So I'm going to open this Airbnb data. Like one row is means one property. And then like, let's say like I want to create a chart and it's showing what type of the properties are in each neighborhood in New York City. Okay, so for example, here is like this like Bedford Stuyvesant, and then obviously the biggest property type is apartment, and not only this particular neighborhood, most of the neighborhood, the biggest one is apartment. Okay, so then the problem I have here is the chart is this is okay, but it's like a sort of like sometimes this is like a stacked bar chart. So like I like to sort of like start from the bottom and to see, for example, like a first one, I want to see the apartment to be the first one. And then like the next, second, third, fourth. And when you do like a first, second, third, I want to have the order to be starting from the big one to smaller ones in terms of these numbers or whatever the number is the bar representing. More precisely, it's actually, so basically what I'm trying to say is like, I want to order these property types based on, right now it's alphabetical order, but based on this y-axis value, in this case, number of rows or number of properties. So I want to see from like, let's say like apartments, obviously like a biggest property numbers. So like I want to see the apartment and then starting from like next. And then when you do the ordering, I want that ordering to start from the bottom to top instead of top to bottom. And that's the kind of chart that we wanted to create. Then before you had to convert this property type column to the factor type, which allows you to set the orders in the data itself. And you could do that, but it was kind of like a little tricky to involve the data wrangling thing. So now with this release, you can actually go to from the menu, go to color and group. And then in this color and group setting dialog, there's this something called sort by. So right now the alphabetical order, but I want to sort by the y-axis order. And then let's say like if I select the y-axis value ascending, and what just happens here, these like barn or bus or castle, yard or cabin, all this stuff, it's sorted by the y-axis value. This is like a y-axis, regardless of the neighborhood type, but in total, it's sorting order. But then starting from a small to the biggest one, that's ascending mean. Okay. So now, next thing I want to do is like, you know what? Because we are starting from like from the bottom to top, right? So that's what we are doing, apartment, house, loft. That means like a most frequent number of the properties are apartment, second house, and loft, and so on. But then I want to change the color apply assignment from the bottom to top instead of the top to bottom. Because always it's good to sort of, because this color palette is starting from blue, orange, and so on. And I want to make sure that blue is going to be used for the first one so that like in future, like even new data comes in, apartment, the color is probably going to be the first color, which is blue, right? So I can change this color assignment to bottom to top. So that way, now like apartment has a blue and house is light blue and so on. So I can click on apply to make sure like whatever what I'm thinking is actually matching with what I'm going to get as a result. And it looks okay. So now like apartment, I'm going to close this. So apartment is blue. And then like basically this is obviously the biggest one. I mean, largest numbers. And then next one is the house and then loft and so on. So this sorting color is pretty useful. This is not just bar chart, but also this pie chart as well. So again, you can sort by the alphabetical order or the numbers of these values. So from the largest to smallest. Okay. And then another thing, speaking of pie chart or a ring chart, is that like this one is right now, like if I remove this like other group setting, then what happens is add all values. So this neighborhood has a 221 neighborhoods. So you get this kind of pie chart. And these areas is probably meaningless. It's just so many little slices and then you can't even see what are those. So I want to do is like, let's keep the first 10 and then 10 neighborhood and then make the rest to be called something called others. And I can actually do it by going from menu or first time you create a chart and assign this color and you'll get the dialog we just saw. And then so you click the button to do the same setting. Or like if you want to start from scratch, then you can select this others group. And then I'm going to select based on the number of rows, that's fine. And then let's keep that like a one top 10. And then this way, like now like I have a top 10 neighborhood and then everything else becomes others. And when you do it, now it's always we guarantee the others will be the last because that just because we are sorting from the biggest to smallest doesn't mean like we want to have the others as a first group, right? So that's why like we make sure the others always will come at the end. This is the same thing with the stack bar chart as well. Okay, so that's the chart area of the enhancement. Let's say, okay. Oh, and the one thing I forgot to tell you is that the bar chart we are looking at here. So sometimes like you want to show the number. So for example, here is like Bedford Stuyvesant apartment is 3005. Instead of like bringing the mouse over, I want to see like, hey, how many, like by just looking at the chart. And then you want to show the values on top of the chart, basically. So before you can show the values on top of each bar or below the bar. So basically below this line or above this line. With this release, we support middle as well. I think this is probably the most people want. So if I change this to middle, show values on plot to the middle, click apply button, and then now you see those numbers in the middle of each bar. And then sometimes the problem is like if the space is so small like this, and then there's not much space for the numbers, and then we automatically adjust that numbers to be small. Probably doesn't really matter. And also another thing is like if something like this, hey, you know what, like, I'd rather not see those numbers showing on the chart, then you can actually control from here. So show values if greater than this value. So for example, in this case, you know what, like I don't want, if anything like less than 100 doesn't need to show up, then I can set 100. And as you see, like all the numbers less than 100 are not shown on top of the bar chart. So these are small things, but probably like, especially for like when you're presenting the chart, it's probably would be very useful. Okay. The other thing is this one has been requested by many, which is showing this like a trend line, which is good. But then sometimes when you have assigned a color, then trend line is drawn for like each color. This case, I have like a 5 neighborhood group. So you see the trend line for each group. But sometimes you want to see only one for the total. And then like, you want to assign the color. I mean, you want to still see the color to see, let's say, for example, in this case, accommodation accommodates how many people can stay in this property is the x-axis, and what are the price on the y-axis. I'm trying to see that relationship between. And then somehow you can see like a green color is above this trend line, which indicates that even though like a less accommodates, the green color is a Manhattan. Manhattan properties for the on the Airbnb tend to ask higher prices than overall total or in a kind of overall trend. And as opposed to that, like I think I see Queens like a red color to be like kind of below this gray trend line, which is like again, all the properties, including all the neighborhood, the trend. So it's like below the line. That means Queens tend to be cheaper as compared to the accommodate how many people you can stay in the properties. Okay, so that's a trend line. And then another thing is a highlight. So we have the this feature called highlight. We can select a particular value and give that a particular color, and then make everything else to be, let's say, gray or something else, which is actually useful to highlight particular spots on the chart. And the problem was that when you have, like, let's say, like 190 countries, those 190 countries still listed in the legend area. So now with this release, we changed it. We added this thing called show as others for not highlighted values. In this dialog at the very bottom, there's a checkbox. When you click on the checkbox, then in the legend, all the values, all the country name in this case becomes others. However, you can still see what are the each dot, in this case, a country. So you don't want to see like every single country to be others other than Japan, United States in this case, but you can still keep the original names, but in the legend, it becomes others. And what's the side benefit of this is that it makes the chart generation to be much faster than before when you have less values in the legend. So for both two reasons. Okay. So the next thing is a data wrangling. Like I was talking about how to create time spent on creating dashboard, and then it turned out that most of the time is actually spent on the chart creation. But in reality, is actually most of the time is spent on creating dashboard. When you dissect it, it's actually the data wrangling. You gotta get the data in the right shape so that you can visualize. So visualization or creating a chart part itself is again, it's not that much of the time. Most of the time like you spend is actually data wrangling. So this release actually, we spend a lot of time to improve the data wrangling experience. Number one, do you notice some change by looking at this screenshot? So focus on the left side area, the data frame list area. Do you notice something? So if you pay close attention to it, right here, this particular data frame called US sales 2015, which is actually the third level. So this one was a branch of one level above US sales. That US sales data frame itself is actually the child of the main data frame called global sales. So this main data frame global sales has two branches, and each of the branches has the child branch. So you can create multi-level branches with this release. This is finally we made this happen. We've been requested many times, and finally here it is. We have it. So you can create multiple branches, and then you can expect the similar way with one single branch experience as well. And then you can again, same thing as before. You can join, you can merge, you can export, you can create charts there, and so on. All the functionalities are supported there with child, grandchild, grandchild branch as well. Okay, so next, these stuff, and then I'm gonna start kind of maybe go with a demo. So let's go back to exploratory. The first thing is this table view. And then here we added this like NA indicator at the below of the column header. So you can see instead of like this capability was visualization was there in the summary view, but now without going to the summary view, you can see this same information under the table view. So obviously this one is like the red indicates the NA or missing values. And then I have 35.33% of NA for this particular column. Okay, so that's useful. And another thing is this gear icon right here. When you click on it, if you don't want that some like a number format, for example, right here is like a 2,845. This means obviously 2,845. If you don't want it, you can uncheck it. Or another thing is you can show the space as symbol. This is actually very useful, like when you're working on like text cleanup or wrangling kind of stuff. So if I check this one and I click OK, and what is going to happen is see here, like a space is now represented as a particular symbol. And when this is useful, well, sometimes there's a space at the end. So even though, let's say like New York and New York, but one New York has a space at the end, and one New York doesn't, then it will be treated as a difference. So like when you visualize with bar chart, you have the two bars, the different bars. And then like you get kind of confused what's going on. So that case, like you can use this functionality to see like, hey, where's the space? And then there is no like a duplicated spaces or the space at the end or beginning. Now you can literally visualize those spaces. Okay, so that's that. And then the next one is I want to cover the joint dialogue. So let's go to this California election data frame. This one was like a 2016, so it was like a little bit late, not late, old. Not a little bit, but pretty old. But here's the join step. Basically, what I'm doing is this like a California's election. This is like more like ballot measures for just California's state roads and stuff. Okay, and then now like and then how they voted, right? Basically, people how they voted. For example, there's a K-12 community college facility. That's one of the ballot, and then it turned out 61%, 0.61, 61% people voted yes, and then the rest voted no, or something like that. Then, but this is for Alameda. That's one of the county in California. So this type of data for like each county we have it. So now later, like I want to do is like, okay, it's how people are voting, and is there any relationship to who they voted for the president, which is at that time was Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. And then basically that information can bring us saying like, hey, this county is leaning to Democratic Party or Republican Party and so on. So I wanted to bring that data. So basically these orange highlighted columns are coming from another data frame, which is basically the sort of a mapping table of the county name and a party name and a candidate name and so on. Okay, so this part is okay, but sometimes, hey, I don't need this candidate name and a vote total. I just want to bring the party name. Or you can actually remove these columns at this point after you join, or you can go to the target data frame and then remove those columns. But sometimes I don't want to do it. I want to keep those columns in the target data frame. And then like, I don't want to add extra step to remove it because this case is like 3 columns. It's not a big deal. But sometimes you might have 100 or 200 columns and you don't want to bring all the columns, obviously. So this release, when you in the join dialog, you can select the columns that like you want to bring in after you join when you do the join. So under the target data frame name, there's this menu, select columns to join. And then you, let me just click on preview this one. So right now, like all the columns are coming. Okay, so now like if I click on this green text and then select columns dialog shows up. And here, you know what, like I want to see like only the party name. This is the only column that I want to bring in. Then click OK, and then click on the preview button again. And then like I have only the party name. And obviously if I click run button, now like I have only one column being added after this join step, join operation. So that's one cool enhancement around the join. And then the second is filter. So let's take a look. That's basically like we kind of already seen with the, which we call it, the dashboard, but nonetheless, I want to do here as well. Sorry, like I keep clicking on the wrong data frame. So that going back to that Airbnb data frame, and then let's say like I want to create a filter step or something for, let's say maybe like a neighborhood or something like that. So from the column header menu and then the filter. And then we have enhanced this area, multiple value. So multi-value select. And this is a new filter dialog when you select the is in multiple value or is not in multiple value operator. Okay, so now like you have the list and then like, you know what, like I want to see, let's see, what are, maybe like a village, village. There you go. I want to see like East Village, maybe and then West Village or Greenwich Village or something like that. And then I can select it, and whatever the selected will be listed at the top. So this one is much better experience than like before. You had to show the drop down, select it, and you got to do like every single time. This time, like I can actually, even like right now the village, right? So like whatever the village, you know what, I want to select all of this. And then like if I get rid of this like a candidate for the search text and all this stuff is selected, and then like I can start adding maybe like 1 or 2 more and so on as well. Okay, and then like I can click on run button, and then like I can see only the one obviously selected. So that is a filter dialog enhancement for multi-select. The next one is, I think this is probably the biggest impact for this release, which is conditional value assignment or conditional calculations. So what I wanted to do is, let's say here, let's see, there is a price column here. And based on the price, I want to create a couple of categories. Let's say like a high end and a medium and low, right? And then you can create, you can use this one too, this create bins, and pretty much you can do simple sort of like categorization as well. But we can actually use something called create calculation and conditional. And you can access this menu from replace values with condition. Either way, it will open the same dialog. So let's go from create calculation and conditional, what that means. So this is a new dialog, which is there before, but we sort of like redesign this dialog. So first, left-hand side the condition, you can create a condition, and then you can set what you do, right? What you want it to do. So let's start creating a condition first. So click on this plus button, and then here the condition creation dialog, which seems similar to filter dialog. Let's say price is greater than equal to, let's say like $200. And then I want to call it like a high, like a high price or something. So, and then here, like you can set the data type to be returned. So what are the return values? So obviously, like I want to call it high, medium, low. So that's going to be the character data type. So I'm going to select the character as a data type. And then based on my selection, this list will be changed. Now, like it says the text column and a calculation. If I was selecting type, like a numeric for type, then you're going to see number or something. But this case text, which is perfect because I just wanted to call it high, high end or something like that. And then like I can create another condition by clicking this plus button. And then this time I want to say like a greater than or equal to $100. Okay. And in this case, middle. This is like a medium or middle. And then if nothing else, I mean, if these, other than these two conditions, any property don't match with these conditions, then I want to call it like a low. So this one, it says COL, that means columns. You can assign the column, let's say like a original column, which is price column, then we return whatever the original values for the rows that don't match with these two conditions. But this case, I want to set the text. So like I set the text and then type row. Okay, and then you can click on run button, and then like I should have the last one is the calculation one column I just created. So based on the price, we have like 3 different classes. So I can click on this column token again to open this dialog. And then let's say like I want to add another condition saying like a premium, like even like higher than that. Like let's say like more than $300 or something. Then I can click on plus button and then set the conditions. And then I type 300, click OK. And obviously this one though, the condition matching process starts from the top. So each row will be evaluated. See like, okay, greater than 200 or greater than 100 or something. So let's imagine like if you have like $400, what happens is it falls into this condition because it matches and then label as high. So that means the $400 or 350, whatever, never be able to match this condition because this is at the bottom. Right. So then I can move this one to the top. So by clicking on this, like 3 bars icon, and then I can drag and drop to the place where I want it to drop. So now I have the $300, greater than $300 condition. And then like I say like a premium, right? And then like what's going to happen is the $400 property will match with this condition first, and then will be labeled the premium. Whatever the property with the prices don't match with this greater than $300 condition falls into the next condition and so on. Okay, so that looks good, but I want to create something else too. Right now, like I'm calling like this is greater than $300. That's fine. If I click on run button, I might have something called premium. Let's go to summary view. And then here is a new one. I have like a 987, which is greater than $300. But I want to add another conditions. What that means, instead of making this like a greater than $300, you know what? Like I don't mind like actually $200, but I want to find apartment that are greater than $200. So to do, I can click on this plus icon to add extra condition in the same condition step. So what that means, if I select the property type to be apartment, and I click OK. So now I have two conditions, and I can select and or. But in this case, whatever the properties matches, which is apartment and then greater than $200, falls into this particular section. And then I want to call it like a high price apartment or something. And then if it doesn't match, meaning no apartment, then go to the next one, and then that's going to be labeled high as long as the price is greater than $200. Okay, so now I have this, and then I just click on run button and see like how many of the properties are apartment and also greater than $200. It turned out those are like 5,566. So this dialog. Now like we support the data type to be returned, and then like we have the text input. In this time, like we are using text, but you can actually do calculation too here. So if I click on this and change that to calculations, and I click on this token, and it will open the calculation window, which is basically the same calculation window that you when you create a calculation. Or if you want to assign like A values, it's basically nothing, then you can do that too. So these are kind of a sample of menu you have based on this data type. There are a bunch of other things you can do as well. Okay, and also like you can drag and drop these conditions, and you can change the orders, and also you can have multiple conditions from the UI. Okay, so that's one. A big enhancement around this particular feature. Another thing is, this is also kind of big. Let me just go to this survey data. Sometimes, especially when you're dealing with the survey data, there are similar type of values. Let's say in this case, like I have like 1 to 10 for different questions from the responders of the survey. Right. And then like I created by using the same replace by setting conditions dialog. So whatever the people who answer the greater than 9 for this particular question is very satisfied, greater than 7, passive, and so on. And then this is fine for like this. I'm working on this passionate about current work, but I want to do the similar thing for other columns. And then definitely like I don't want to create the same thing again and again for each column. Can we do it together for all the columns at the same time? Yes, you can. So what you can do is here's the target columns. When you click on it, right now, this is a target, but I can select one by one, right? Or like using a shift key. So now at this point, I'm selecting 7 columns, okay? And that means if I do this operation, these 7 columns will be updated at the same time. If you click on this overwrite target columns, then it will override existing the 7 columns. Or you can create new columns and say, this one is like, I want to set like a class or something, or maybe type or something like that. This is like a sort of prefix or not, like at the end fix or something. So that means if I click on run button, what happens is here it is. All those columns will have other columns, other independent columns, with the column names of like underscore type. But similar things being done based on each column conditions. Okay, so that's pretty. Wait a second. Let me see. Oh, actually, one thing I forgot. So this time, like I still, like even though I selected target columns, still this condition is based on the passionate about current work. So then ended up like you're gonna have seven new columns with the exact same value. So that was my bad. What you want to do is actually you want to select columns. These are selected columns. What selected columns? Well, selected columns is the one like we selected here. Okay, so that is represented by dot, but basically whatever the selected column, we're gonna go one by one, but whatever the column of that time, and then use that, and then greater than equal, and then that is, I think originally was like a greater than 9, and I'm gonna click OK. And then here as well, like I'm going to select that. This one is like to be selected columns, and then condition is like a 7, and I click OK. And then run. And then again, we're going to have the same set of columns, except those columns now like have like underscore type. And then each column is very different because is column sensitive, right? So like this one, this conditions, operation is done based on passionate about current work. On the next one, the consider current job is important, and so on. Okay. So that's this one is a conditional columns, but you can actually do for replace values as well. So for example, let's say like, you know what, like, I want to replace these 3 columns at the same time. Here's the replace values with new values. And then like at this point, like I have 3 values. And you know what, like I want to change it to 1 and 2 and 3. And then when I click on target column area, these 3 columns are already selected. You can actually keep adding other columns as well, but in this case, I want to go with these 3 columns. Again, you can create a new columns with some suffix or prefix. I forgot which one. And then click run button. And then I should have like these new 3 columns. You can override the existing columns as well. Okay, so those are the new enhancements around the data wrangling. And another thing is we have seen join. Join is basically bringing the extra columns from a different data frame. Another thing called is very similar, which is here called merge, which is bringing another different data frames but adding those rows instead of columns. That's called merge. And then merge also has a new drop-down list, which is basically the one like you saw with a filter dialog. Okay, so those are the data frames, data wrangling. And then the last one is, let's go into here. So I talked about data informed at the very beginning. That's where like analytics comes in. That area as well, like not necessarily directly impacted the dashboard, but sometimes like it's important to go to the next step. So 2 areas. One is the prediction for Cox regression and survival forest. This is more like survival analysis side of things. And then another thing, the factor analysis. So the prediction for with Cox regression survival forest is like basically these 2 algorithms. The only difference is one is a machine learning, which is survival forest or survival random forest, and Cox regression is more like a statistical learning model. And you can build those prediction models under the analytics view, right? And then for the data, like sort of like a churn or cancel or attrition, and then so on, type of the data, any type of the prediction, any type of the things that you want to predict, but it matters how long that patient or employee or customers are. So the period actually matters. So in that case, like you want to create this prediction model with these type of algorithms rather than binary classification algorithms. Besides that, I'm not going to go into the detail of those things, but today, like we added with this release, we added a prediction capability with great features. So now, by using those prediction model, let's say you create a prediction model for like the churn prediction model, which customer is going to churn or not, that types of things. Now with this UI, you can set, let's say, a baseline as today, or maybe the end of the data, or particular day. And then what happens in the next 2 months period or 3 months period. So maybe some of the customers, the risk of the churning or canceling might be higher than the others. But I want to know based on today. What makes it complicated is that every customers have a different period being a customer. So this customer A has already been customer for a year. Customer B has been customer only 1 month, right? So in that, when I say like the next couple of months, what's going to happen is it's going to be very different based on how long the customers are being a customer. So, but we actually do some calculation behind the scene, and then if just clicking on the run button, you will get the survival rate for each customer based on their based on their unique customer time, or we call it like survival time, Okay. Another feature is that sometimes you want to see, like, you know what, like, I want to set a threshold. I don't know, maybe like 50% or 60% or something like that. And then if like each individual hit that threshold, I want to know like when they're going to hit the threshold. So again, maybe customer A has been with us 3 years. Customer B have been with us only for 3 months. So therefore, their risk of churning would be obviously different, even though like with their kind of same condition. They're using the same features, same customer attributes, right? So in this case, like you can set the threshold, and then what I want to know is when. So maybe this customer A it's going to be like, hey, this year's like, I don't know, like November 15th, that's when this customer will hit the threshold. Another customer might be like, next year, like October 15th, that's when like, this customer will hit the threshold of, let's say, like, 40% of risk or something like that. So you can create those threshold and then predict with a new version. Another thing is factor analysis. Now that we actually sort each factor with variables based on the weights. Before, we just sorted it with the first factor, which is factor 1. And then therefore, the factor 2, 3, 4, and so on will be kind of hard to see. But now that we actually apply something, some logic to make it more easier, intuitive. So the right-hand side is a new one. So obviously you can see like what are the variables of factor 1, what are the variables of factor 2, what are the variables of factor 3, so on. Okay. So that's analytics, and that's pretty much it, except there's one more thing, which is the server side of things. So what that means. So you remember like I created this dashboard, and then I actually published it to the server. So then like published dashboard is here. And that's what you might want to do, like you want to share with others. And not by just sharing the dashboard, you want to schedule it to automate, maybe like every day to query against the database and then get the new data and so on. But also when you share with others, you want to provide interactive experiences. So we had the parameter that was even before. But you remember in this today's seminar, like I said, you can actually click any place to show detailed data. And you can actually do that at the server too, on the published contents as well. So if you click on any particular chart, what's going to happen is you're going to get this dialog. And in order to provide the interactive experience, it needs to be in something called interactive mode, which basically behind the scene, start our instance and then bring in the data in the memory area. Then like the whole export, this whole thing is start interacting with our engine to do all sorts of calculation and querying and so on. Okay, so all you need to do is basically you or whoever like you invited or you share with, click the start button, and that will start up the R environment quickly, and then load that data, whatever the data that requires for this particular dashboard. Okay, and then it basically enabling the interactive for the parameters. So if you're familiar with parameter, basically the same thing, but except not just parameters, but also I can just click on any part of the chart and then click the show detail in the web browser. So I think this is pretty cool enhancements with a 6.11. And obviously, like here, like you can see those are enhanced like list parameters as well. Okay, so let's see. I think that's it for today. So with that, please download and upgrade today. So the 6.11, like if you want to download, you go to our website, exploratory.io, and from the download menu, select Exploratory Desktop, and then like, you can see the download button. And also, we have made a lot more enhancements and bug fixes that we couldn't cover in this seminar. So you can click on the release notes and see a list of those issues and minor enhancements as well. And also, big news is that we have released the public version as well. So if you can actually use it for free, export it for free, as long as you're okay with saving the projects and data and everything at our server in a public way. Sometimes it's actually good for like you're just kind of testing out, or maybe you're working on an open project or something like that. That might be a good fit. So you can, there's a 6.11 version available for public version as well. Okay, so, and then for future reference and also past recording, you go to the same page, exploratory.io, and under the Learn, go to the online seminar, and then you can find the past recordings. And also, if you want to know like what, how to use Exploratory, make sure to go to under the Learn, go to how to tutorials. There are tons of information out there. Okay. With that, here's my information, kan@exploratory.io. If you have any questions, you want to reach out, please send my way. Or we have the Twitter account, Exploratory Data. Please follow. And we keep announcing the new features and highlight information or this type of seminar information as well. Okay. With that, I'm going to end today's online seminar. Again, thank you so much for joining today. And next week, we are planning for doing like analytics grammar introductions. And so please stay tuned. And otherwise, please have a great rest of the week. Bye.